Why do I have my hat on backwards? Because this Cleveland Guardians team is playing baseball like it's the 1990s again.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. Justin is out. He is at I almost at a conference. He's at a concert. That's a lot more fun than a conference. Today's episode is brought to you. Today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt. Get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. For those who don't know me, I am one of the original hosts here on the Locked On MLB side of things. When they first expanded to baseball, I was one of the first people they brought on. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst nationally at Scouting 24/7. Before that, I was your fifth favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports blog that I think has existed, as well as occasional contributor to Prospects Live. Today's show, we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about why that game actually had playoff implications, if you didn't know. Draft Combine, we had day 2. There's some fun stories, some guys who kind of make sense to the Guardians that I at least want to listen. We have talked ad nauseum about Weatherholt, Condon, Jack, all of them. Let's talk about some other guys. So I'm going to take advantage of this to do that. And then let's talk about some minor league performers. A lot of people have been asking about some pitchers and who's getting moved up or why guys aren't getting moved up. So let's dive into that. Let's have some fun with it today. And, you know, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. Several everydayers out there. You know, I know I talk about Scott and John a lot and David, but there's so many of you. Jacob Myers, I know, had a great comment the other day as well. I promised I would talk about one other fact about the draft that we'll get to in segment 2. Just a quick thing from some number crunching, so maybe not everyone's favorite thing. But before we get into this, let's just kind of set up this series in general. 1, it was 2 division leaders versus each other. 3, Seattle, after that first game, was on a 6-game win streak. They are currently 7-3 in their last 10. That's right, 2 of those to the Guardians. Cleveland taking 2 from a very hot team that is playing very well. Yes, they're below 500 on the road, but so is their entire division, and so is most baseball teams. I mean, like the teams above 500 on the road right now, you've got Cleveland, New York, Boston, and Baltimore in the American League. Like, teams are not playing well on the road. But still, this is a team, again, they were 7-1 in their last 8 until these last 2 games. And I used to do this thing where I talk about like who reached base twice in the game. If you want to know who did that, and that's part of why they got to 6 runs, it was Kwan, it was Gimenez, it was Ramirez, it was Brennan, and it was Rocchio. Rocchio, bad transfer, dropped the ball. I know people get mad, but his metrics as a defender are fine. And he's having a good month of June offensively. Listen, he's fine. He's an okay shortstop right now. There's bigger fish to fry with this team than to one of them being David Fry, and that he, what we're kind of afraid of. He has been overexposed, and we're seeing what happens, that he's probably best served as a left-handed platoon bat. I was all for trying it, right? Like at this point in time with the struggles they've had, you want to see what can work. Why not see if maybe he can be more? Unfortunately, looks like in this month, we've kind of seen why he's kind of best served as just, a lefty killer. And then when you have him on the bench, you have that, what Justin has talked about, that ability to go get a guy who destroys lefties who's on your bench. Throughout this game, I got to give credit to Logan Allen. It wasn't pretty. He wasn't great. A lot of guys on the base paths. He found ways to get double plays. In one inning, he had to get 2 of them because of the bad transfer. But 6 innings, 3 earned runs. You're going to take that every time. That's a strong performance. That's 3 strong performances in a row for that dude. And Tim Herron, back-to-back struggles. Just, the hit, the walk. Cade Smith had me so nervous when he came in. I don't know about anyone else, but when he was 3-0, you already got, 1 out and 2 guys on base. I'm like, oh my goodness, is this going to blow up on him? He just instead gets a double play and is out of it and is fine the rest of the way. And then Clase, I mean, he's down to a 0.76 ERA. I mean, enough said, right? Like, he is it's just unbelievable. A .76 ERA. He's given up 3 runs all year. That's total composite runs. I was listening to the Mariners broadcast for this one, as I often like to do, listen to the opposing and see what they think of the team. And they talked about the fact that he had, the Mariners need 3, and he has only given up 3 all year. It's really good performance by Clase, who continues. And he's the easiest all-star candidate on this team. Someone talked about Quan should make. Yeah, he should. We'll see if it happens. He's almost up to 400. Now he is rocking a 500 BABIP right now, which I know people are going to be like, "Oh, why are you so negative?" He's been fantastic. Yeah, he'll fall back to earth some. I still think he's going to contend for a batting title. It's just hitting where he's hitting right now is just, it's otherworldly. It's like he is playing on rookie in the show. It's just he's playing on easy mode, and it's fun to see. And man, we needed this type of game from Gimenez. Like, Gimenez has been scuffling. He's been their worst hitter in June. Hit a 2-run home run that should have been a 3-run home run. Rocchio's not fast at all. So like him trying to steal that base, even though it's Mitch Garver, who's not a good defender. By the way, why you avoid free agency? Mitch Garver, their big free agent signing for Seattle, 176, 298, 353. Free agency it's a sucker bet. Unless you can get the elite of the elite, never dive into free agency. Dylan Moore continued to haunt this team. I guess he's got like nearly a 750 OPS, weird profile. I mean, he's always been more of a backup, but he's having himself, like, for him, he's in the midst of a career year. But Rocco ran himself out of that inning. Then Quan works the walk. Gimenez hits the home run, and Cleveland takes the lead, and they never give it up. They keep battling. They keep trying to add more, and they do add more. And of course, the guy I'm giving short shrift to right now is Will Brennan. 2 home runs and a double, 3 extra base hits. He has been one of their best hitters in June. He was good last June. Question is, can he continue this over? We have seen these hot stretches with Will Brennan. We've seen him this year, where it's like he has 3 weeks where he is molten lava, and then 3 weeks where he is ice cold. And can we find a balance in between? So when he's hot, he's high. When he's low, he's not quite that low. Sorry, I had to go take care of something real quick. But Brennan, it's consistency. Can a young player find consistency? And that's what we've seen with a lot of, the Oscar Gonzalez and Will Brennan. And that is what's going to be the separator. That's what's between you being, in Brennan's case, he's a major league player because of the defensive value. But can he be more than a backup? And that's really what we're kind of still debating with him. But this was a fantastic game. Some of the things I used to do when I was a solo show host here is I'd give 3 stars. And this one, to me, it's Brennan, Gimenez, and Allen in that order. 3 stars of the game. To have a starter go 6 yet again was pretty big. And, he was down early, and like I said, it was not pretty, but he limited damage. And that's what you need. And then, Brennan had just a day. I mean, honestly, a day for the ages. 3 hits, 3 extra base hits, 2 home runs. It was amazing. And Andres came up with an absolutely huge home run when they needed it. This was such a good win. Luis Castilla had the 11th best strikeout per 9 by a Mariners pitcher all time coming into this game. And they only struck out 4 times. They got 2 walks off of him. In the grand scheme, they had 9 hits and 4 walks. So they got, that's, 14 base runners. There were no errors, I believe. So technically they should score closer to 5 runs. They got 6 because they were efficient and they had so many extra base hits. Their side of things, Seattle should have been at about 3 with because they had 5 hits and 5 walks. They worked the pitching, and there was the hit batter. But yeah, Cleveland just took care of business again, even with Herron kind of stumbling for the second time in a row, and he didn't get an earned run with his stumbles. So his ERA is still 1.2. It's just today the ERA of the bullpen guys deployed 1.2, 1.82, 0.76. I've never seen that in my life. It's just unbelievable, and that's something I think I don't want to stop appreciating, because it's just that is so much fun. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is a game that had playoff implications, because if Seattle wins, it's a split series. Instead, Cleveland just won this series. This is the end of the games against the Mariners, And that means if there's a tie at the end of the year, the first tiebreaker for, a playoff bye is head-to-head. So Cleveland just won the tiebreaker. If Seattle and Cleveland end the season with the same number of wins, Cleveland gets the higher seeding. So this was actually a important game. The odds are they won't end with the same record, but there's always a chance of that. So it had playoff implications. They beat a hot team that has played very well. Cleveland's legit, and I'm very tired of anyone who's doubting it. This is a team that is well on the way to the playoffs. We're going to come back. There's some draft names you need to know. There's some fun stories, as well as let's discuss what is going on with minor league performances, the positive side of it, on today's Locked On Guardians. Stitch Fix. I've talked about them before. This is a product that we use in our house. I've mentioned, my wife really enjoys her Stitch Fix account, uses it heavily, so much so even though they've increased the fact that now you're getting $100 off from Stitch Fix, my wife still would not create a new account. She wants her stylist. She knows and trusts her stylist. And once you have that type of, it's like the bond with a doctor or therapist, it's also your stylist. And it's why it's important to have good stylists. And that's what Stitch Fix does. They figure out your style and they match you up. And life is busy. Life is hard. This is a way to take some time back. They'll send you things. If it doesn't work, you send it back. You keep the pieces that work for you. The pieces you don't like, you send back. And they just get to know you better. And eventually you're going to be able to get a whole new wardrobe with just saving yourself so much time. It's a gift to yourself. You can make yourself look better while saving the time it would take to go do this at the store. It's style that makes you feel as good as you look. Now is the best time to start at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That is a new high. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include kids fixes. Oh, no, I'm not Justin. I want to remind you to check out all of the action on Sirius XM. They've got you covered for every single game that the Guardians play. Check out Sirius XM Radio. Getting into the draft side of things now, for those who want to join in on this part. So there's a few fun guys. One that stood out today was a guy I'd been kind of intrigued by previously, and this is actually from yesterday's data, I should say, day 2, was Joseph Sullivan. Now, when I looked at him and, we were able to get a hold of batted ball data, and he jumped out because he had one of the best chase rates. Now, he played at, and I'm burying the lead here, Joseph Sullivan is his name. And he played outfield at Southern Alabama. Will Turner was a guy who had like second round buzz heading into the year, didn't have the best year there. Sullivan stepped up. His contact score is not the best. It's almost in the red, which is weird. You don't see a lot of really low chase, bad contact. Now his exit velocity, were excellent, and he had a 112.2 at the combine, and then he kept hitting the ball hard. He had, of the 5 hardest hit ones, he had 2 of them, and he appeared, the only guy who appeared 3 times on that list. Like, he really went out there and performed well with that. And what's interesting about him in general is, he's a small school guy, but his dad won the Heisman Trophy in 1971 at Auburn as a quarterback. And he's more known for his speed. So this is a speed power guy who hit the ball, hard, hit the ball long. One of them, they said, went 427 feet. He's a developmental guy. Day 2, just interesting. I don't know if he's a Guardians type, but I'm going to be paying attention. I mean, it's just, first off, he's also a twin. Like, there's a lot of interesting things under the hood with this. But yeah, his dad won a Heisman Trophy, and at Auburn, and somehow an Auburn baseball team that definitely could have used him didn't get him. Didn't land the son of a Heisman Trophy winner. That seemed a bit off. The numbers were not as good as you'd expect with the batted ball data, but it feels like a guy who's just coming into his game. I also wanted to highlight Cade Townsend because he went to the same high school as Milan Tolentino, and that is kind of the area that we talk about. And Townsend was ridiculous. his curveball and slider we knew were good pitches. His fastball was 96.6, and the spin rates were just 3,265, 3,132. And you look at the top spin rates, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10. And I feel like is that good? Anything over 3,000 is like the elite of spin rate. So if he's spinning his curveball and a slider that way, yeah, I mean, this is going to put him in the top 5, not draft discussion, top 5 prep pitcher discussion, right? He's going to be up there with the William Schmitz and the Cam Caminittis, the Braylon Dowdy, in that kind of grouping of guys that we've discussed previously. And again, we know this is a high school that Cleveland has spent time around and with. They also have an outfielder who's going to get has a chance to get drafted. The only thing that makes me a little hesitant to say Cleveland might go after him is he's already 19. And he's been 19 for a month already. So he is an older aged guy. Now, they did take Logan Clark out of another California high school kid in the 16th round, gave him the full $125,000 they could give him there. Now, he has only one plate appearance this year, so I don't know what's exactly going on with Logan Clark. But for Cade Townsend, he's also not the biggest righty at 6'2", if we're being honest. So those kind of count against him. But man, curveball, slider, like having those big time secondary pitches and that high of a spin rate, like those are things we know this team loves. And I've always said, like, teams don't always stick to their plan. So when they go against what they've always done, you need to stand up and pay attention. That was my statement when they drafted Connor Capel years ago. And Capel's turned into a major leaguer. He's been a bit up and down, but hey, not bad for a guy who was late on day 2. In terms of the day before, someone spinning a lot that you need to pay attention to is Luke Sinnard. Cleveland is not afraid of giant pitchers. Hunter Gaddis is a defensive end or an offensive lineman. Obviously, Tugboat is a big dude. Luke Sinnard is 6'8", 250. Didn't pitch this year due to injury, but if he's throwing at the combine, he's healthy now. He set Indiana's strikeout rate a year ago as a transfer. Best strikeout total in the Indiana's history. High strikeouts, low walks. Walk rate per 9 under 3, I want to say, with a strikeout. It's either over 11 or 12. So he was dominant as a sophomore. Got hurt, didn't get a chance to perform this year. And he was also spinning the ball like crazy. Cleveland is not afraid of injury. They love spin. They love command. They love when you miss bats. Tim Herron was another big Indiana kid they've drafted in recent years. So Luke Sinard, also a guy who has stood out recently at the combine. And the nice thing, too, is since he's coming back from injury, he might be able to throw some minor league innings. Often they don't want their college guys throwing any innings, but he might be the guy where you're just trying to help him, get back up to it. So that was another performer. And then the hardest hit ball yesterday went to Nathan Flewlling, a catcher from Ecole Secondary Notre Dame High School, Red Deer, Alberta. I have not seen a lot of guys come out of Alberta, but this is a guy to pay attention to because he's a catcher. And he's one of the youngest players in the class. He's only 17 years, 7 months right now. So think about it. Add 5 months that he's got a November birthday. Very young Canadian kid. Pop times 178 to 194, which are really good. Arm was 82. That's solid. Not a fast guy. Like, he's also listed as catcher outfielder. You're probably going to want to try to develop him as a catcher. But, I mean, he is a big, strong kid. He's also a left-handed bat. I know not everyone loves that. Bats left, throws right, but we know Cleveland likes that. Cold weather, left-handed bat, young for the class, good data points, and a catcher. Committed to Gonzaga as well, so maybe not the biggest guy to talk out of a bonus. And I believe he hit the hardest ball. I want to double check it, maybe of anyone. There were some of your top college performers who were also there. I'll just double check. I'm sorry, Jared Jones did outdo him, and Chase Harlan might have as well. But no, only Jared Jones. And we all heard about the Jared Jones performance. Jared Jones was a freak of nature as a high school kid. We knew that guy was going to have power. He was a catcher back then. the interesting thing with Jared Jones is right now he's first base only. He actually has some athleticism. I don't know where else he'd play. He's a big, strong kid. He chases less than Dakota Jordan. He hits the ball slightly harder in terms of exit velocity, and their contact rates. He has the worst contact rate on my list. But Dakota Jordan is only a little bit off. But Dakota Jordan has significantly more chase. Dakota Jordan's a first rounder. Jared Jones, maybe a third. I think, and some of that is positional value and like speed and stuff like that. But I just wanted to also point that out. Jared Jones had a huge day. But Nathan Flewlling here, only player who hit a ball for, harder was Jared Jones. That says a lot. I mean, he's 17. He's likely going to get bigger and stronger. So, keep an eye on him. He was one of those guys. I'm like, who is this? I don't know him well. And we did talk about Aiden Harris earlier in this year in terms of power. He made this list. He's a little bit further down. Tog Davis was the number 2 guy, just a 10th behind Flewlling, I believe, son of Ben Davis. I could have that wrong. Son of someone went to Malvern Prep. That's where Lonnie White, who the Pirates drafted, went. It's a interesting program. There's so many guys who excelled at the combine. I really wish I had more time to get into them. The one little point I do want to make before I take us to a little bit of a late break here is did I pull it up and then close it? Because that'd be a very me thing to do. Jeff. I'm going to make sure I have the data here. Basically, I don't need the data. When we had our discussion yesterday about spreading out the pick money, one point I forgot to make is I went through 30 years of data. The first overall pick has produced more value than the second, third, and fourth pick combined. What's that say? It says take the best player and don't mess around. So with the whole debate yesterday, I did like that MLB.com had Bazana there and talked about Bazana versus Condon. I can look at the data and understand why one would say whether Holton and Bazana are close. But you have to make your evaluation and decide who is the best player in this class and then take that player. Because historically it says that when you have the first overall pick, you take the best player because that pick is more valuable than the next 3 picks combined because you get the best player in the class. And you typically know who that is. So I just want the team to evaluate who's their best player and historically just take that guy. You don't want to get cute. You don't want to do that. Look, the Pirates, I thought Henry Davis was the top player in that class, but that was a bad class. Like there was not a tier 1 player. So just to go back to the discussion from yesterday, I promised some people I'd mention it. That pick is so valuable. You take the best guy, you don't get cute. And then you still have such a huge pool that you can still maneuver things, make things work. It's just the value historically is so high there that I don't want to be the team. Yeah. So the Pirates hasn't worked, but Baltimore has essentially built their team cutting the deals. Jurstead was not the guy valued at that pick. Cowser, not the guy valued at that pick, except for when they did pick one and they debated doing this, they had Adley Rushman there, who was start to finish number 1 overall. And that was the one time they did make that pick. So when you are at 1, I still stand. That's not the time to get cute. We had to come back and talk about some of the pitching in the minors because the pitching in the majors could use some help. And there's been a lot of questions. So join us in a second to talk about the minor league performances on today's Locked On Guardians. Here at Locked On Guardians, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. I don't know if I should say that quite so happily, but just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. So my dad, for a few years, decided he didn't need to pay taxes. And it was a massive pain to go through and figure that all out to avoid garnishments. And luckily, I had an accountant in the family. If you don't have that, you need someone on your side because it's going to be more expensive to pay fines and everything else you have to go through with. And I had another point personally where I didn't realize that you could be charged by the city you're living in thanks to RETA rules in Ohio. So there's so much with taxes that is so easy to not understand. And that's why you want someone with experience. And Tax Network has 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. Tax Network USA has saved their clients $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require planning, or finally hit the parlay this season and need correct filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. So one of the big questions I am getting online is, why are the Guardians not, what's going on with their minor league players? Like, why are they not pulling up? Why is everyone sitting down in the in AA instead of moving to AAA? And it's a good question, right? Like, when you're sitting there with this team that needs pitching, you want to see pitching start actually moving up through the minors. And so far, we've seen a very, very slow trickle. And most questions I get are about like Mace and Webb and a lot of the AA arms. But to me, like Davenport as well, I think is the third one, because we finally got a Nikhazy promotion. I want to say I could be wrong there. I could be misspeaking or forgetting something. But when you're kind of going through and looking at, to me, the bigger issue is the lack of guys getting promoted from AA. Means you have guys just wasting away in high A. Austin Peterson. Can I just tell you what his K per 9 or his walk per 9 is right now? It's 0.71. That's Shane Bieber in the minors walk levels. For those who remember, Shane Bieber one time walked 8 guys in a minor league season. Peterson is not Shane Bieber. He does not have his velocity. He does have crazy supination and extension, which makes all of his low 90s offerings look more like mid 90s. He's a kid who he's 24 in high A. He's pitching phenomenally. He has no business being in high A. Move him up, find a way. And to me, like, outside of Ryan Webb, he's a better prospect than anyone we're discussing at AA moving up. So that's our Parker Messick. Parker Messick was supposed to be one of the most polished players in his draft class. He's getting lapped by high schoolers who were known to be non-polished, taken in that same. Noah Schultz is a huge kid. His dad loved to give me draft information again. So much information is from parents anymore, but nice kid, nice family. But it was just always funny. His dad would show up into my DMs and let me know things. Or was it just him responding to things? I can't remember. I don't want to misquote it, but Noah Schultz is a big kid. Like, big pitchers are scary because by nature, a lot of big pitchers have problems with mechanics. Noah Schultz is in AA, taking the same draft class. Parker Messick is still in high A. Parker Messick, and with both Peterson and Messick, the FIPS are phenomenal. They're performing super well. There's not a lot to prove. The one thing I would say, no, Nikhazy is still in AA. I thought he was getting the push up. Like, all of these guys, like, the 16th best FIP in the minors, if I drop it to 20 innings pitched, 16 is Messick, 17 is Webb, 18 Nikhazy, 19 Mace. For those who don't know, FIP is fielding independent pitching. It is supposed to be the best predictive stat for future performance. Now, in the minors, it can be a little more hinky, but still, the point of the matter is these guys have nothing to prove. Now, the other side of it, I'll say, is AAA is hard. It is very hard. Andrew Walters, remember what we discussed about how he was just utterly untouchable in AA? Now he's got the second worst FIP in the minors amongst Cleveland pitchers. He is getting he's still, he's missing a ton of bats. He's not walking too many guys, but he is getting hit hard in AAA. It's a hard transition. He's starting to walk more guys, and it's Walters was supposed to be the most ready guy, and we thought for sure he's going to pitch in the big leagues this year, and everything they were telling us made it sound like the Guardians thought he'd pitch in the big leagues this year, and he got into AAA and ran into a wall. Logan Allen got to AAA, struggled. We've seen a lot of guys. It is not an easy transition. So when I'm looking at why, okay, so Ryan Webb, there's not a great like reason in particular. He's already 25. He's the first guy I think should be promoted. He's the oldest of that group of pitchers we kind of talked about. He's probably has the highest ceiling of that group. He's a lefty. He has good stuff. He is the first one of those AA arms. Once he gets promoted, I would love to see, Webb and then Messick take his place. And then when I look through Ninkasi, so the issue with Tommy Mace is he just doesn't miss bats. A 6.56 K rate. I don't see. I don't want to be mean, but it's like that type of strikeout rate just doesn't work anymore in baseball. And it's like you could move him up, but it's just not the priority. Aaron Davenport, 7.53 K per nine, also not ideal. It's a little bit better. But it's, he's got a phenomenal FIP. He's pitched really well. All these guys have pitched pretty well, but Webb and Ninkasi are the guys who I think, because Ninkasi is 9.14 K per nine, and the thing with Mace and Davenport is they're better at not walking anyone, and there's a little more wildness with Webb and Ninkasi, but there's also more ceiling. But you need those guys to move up because of how good Peterson and Messick have been. You need to start getting guys shifting and moving, and heck, Magnus Elnertz has been phenomenal as a 23-year-old. Like, make room for another reliever. Like, don't let Zane Morehouse from last year's class, by the way, is now 11th in FIP in this organization. Jaime Barea is 10th. He's still listed, but like, that's a great story. We haven't had a chance or time to get into. So, there's a lot of fun stories. I don't know why guys aren't being promoted. I hope we see some more promotions soon on the pitching side of things. I want to thank all you for joining us, being everydayers, and being part of the Locked On Guardians team. Thank you very much. We appreciate each and every one of you, and go Guardians, go.